The great chamber of the Galactic Council was a place of wonder. Crystal walls rose hundreds of feet into the air. Light from distant stars poured through massive windows. Delegates from 100 different worlds sat in chairs designed for their strange bodies. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some floated in tanks of liquid because they could not breathe air. At the far end of the curved table sat the human delegation. Their chair was the smallest. Their position was the lowest. This had been true for 60 years. Ambassador Daniel Harper stood slowly from that small chair. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent 20 years fighting for humanity in this chamber. 20 years of small victories and large defeats. 20 years of watching his people be treated like children who did not deserve a voice. Today would be different. The Valkyrie representative had just finished speaking. The Valkyrie were tall beings with blue skin and 3 eyes. They were one of the oldest members of the council. They believed this gave them the right to control everyone else. The resolution they proposed was simple. All human military ships would be inspected by council forces. Earth would be allowed only 40 vessels. Any ships beyond that number would be destroyed. It was not a request. It was a command. Daniel looked around the chamber. He saw the Kolvathi elder watching him with ancient eyes. The Kolvathi were the oldest species in known space. They rarely spoke, but when they did, others listened. Today the elder said nothing. He simply watched. The insectoid chorus delegates clicked their mandibles together. They were a hive species, many minds working as one. They always calculated the odds before choosing a side. Right now they were calculating whether humanity was worth defending. The answer, Daniel knew, was no. Humanity was too young, too weak, too unimportant. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was an old gesture. Paper was ancient technology. But Daniel believed some moments required weight and ceremony. The United Earth Government, he said clearly, hereby withdraws from all treaties, agreements, and provisional memberships with the Galactic Council. This withdrawal is effective immediately. The translation systems hummed. His words spread through the chamber in 100 different languages. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then the Valkyrie ambassador laughed. It was a harsh sound, like rocks grinding together. "You cannot be serious," he said. "Leave the council? You would not survive a single year. You have no friends, no allies, no trade partners. Your colonies will starve. Your people will beg us to take you back." Daniel did not argue. He had learned long ago that arguing with the Valkyrie was pointless. They did not listen. They only waited for others to stop talking. "Perhaps you are right," he said. "Perhaps we will fail. But we will fail on our own terms. We will not kneel." The High Arbiter leaned forward in his great chair at the center of the table. He was an ancient being with gray skin that shifted and flowed like water. He had led the council for 300 years. He had seen many species come and go. "Ambassador Harper," he said, and his voice was smooth and cold, "you are making a terrible mistake. The galaxy is dangerous. There are pirates in the outer systems. There are ancient threats in the deep void. Without the council's protection, your species will be prey." Daniel picked up the small Earth flag from his desk. It was a simple thing. Blue and green, like the planet it represented. "We are already prey," he said. "The council takes our resources. The council limits our growth. The council treats us like servants in our own home. We would rather face the dangers of space alone than continue living under your heel." He tucked the flag under his arm and walked toward the chamber doors. His footsteps echoed in the silence. No one tried to stop him. Perhaps they were too shocked. Perhaps they simply did not care. At the door, He paused and looked back one final time. "In 60 years," he said, "you never once asked us what we wanted. You never asked us what we dreamed of. You simply told us what we were allowed to have. That is not partnership. That is not friendship. That is control. And we are done being controlled." The doors closed behind him. On Earth, Commander Lavra Mitchell watched the broadcast from Fleet Headquarters in Singapore. The room around her was chaos. Officers shouted at each other. Some were afraid. Some were angry. A few were crying. Lara sat very still at her desk, her hands folded in front of her. She had known this day would come. She had been preparing for 3 years. On her screen, the council chamber erupted into arguments. The Valkyrie demanded immediate sanctions. The Kovathi said nothing. The chorus clicked and buzzed among themselves, already recalculating their political positions. Lavra opened a secure channel to the other fleet commanders around the solar system. Their faces appeared on her screen one by one. Admiral Casey Grant in the orbital stations. Captain Benjamin Shaw at the Mars shipyards. Colonel Patricia Dunn at the Europa Research Base. "You all saw it," Lavra said. "It's done. We're on our own now. The Council will try to crush us," Casey said. His face was grim. "They can't allow this. If we succeed, others might follow. Then we need to make sure they can't crush us," Lavra replied. She pulled up a file on her computer. It was marked with the highest level of security clearance. The words Project Sovereign glowed red on the screen. "We have 18 months, she said. "Maybe 2 years if we're lucky. The Council is arrogant. They think we're weak. They'll expect us to come crawling back. That gives us time. Time for what?" Patricia asked. Lara smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who had been waiting a very long time for this moment. Time to become something they never expected. Time to build ships they've never seen. Time to develop weapons they can't imagine. Time to show the galaxy that humanity does not kneel. She sent the file to all of them. One by one, she watched their faces change as they read the details. Shock, disbelief, and then, slowly, hope. "This is real?" Benjamin asked. "We can actually do this?" "We've been working on it in secret for 15 years, Lavra said. "The Council never bothered to watch us closely. They thought we were too primitive to be a threat. They were wrong. Above the Earth, the stars shone cold and bright. In the great emptiness between worlds, humanity was now alone. But alone did not mean helpless, and the galaxy was about to learn that lesson the hard way." 5 years passed in silence. The galaxy watched Earth the way a cat watches a wounded bird. They expected the humans to starve. They expected riots and collapse. They expected desperate messages begging the Council to take them back. None of that happened. Deep beneath the surface of Luna, Nathan Perry walked through the largest shipyard in human history. The cavern stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of workers moved through the space like ants, building something that would change everything. Nathan had not slept properly in 3 years. His eyes were red. His hair was turning gray even though he was only 42. But every time he looked at the ships taking shape around him, he felt the exhaustion fade away. They were beautiful. The Council ships were elegant in their own way. Long and curved, like sea creatures from some alien ocean. They used graviton wells to push themselves through space. It was old technology, proven and reliable. Human ships were different. They were angular and sharp, built for function rather than beauty. And hidden inside each one was something the Council had never seen before. Nathan stopped beside a half-finished vessel. The hull was open, revealing the complex machinery within. Engineers in protective suits worked on a device at the ship's core. It looked almost simple, Just a sphere of dark metal covered in strange patterns. It was a fold space drive. The Council moved through space by pushing against gravity. Humans would move by folding space itself. One moment a ship would be here. The next moment it would be somewhere else. No travel time. No warning. No chance to prepare. How many are ready? Laura Mitchell asked. She had come down from Earth to inspect the shipyards personally. Nathan checked his tablet. 47 combat vessels are fully operational. Another 60 are nearly complete. We should have the full fleet ready within 8 months. Laura nodded. Her face showed no emotion, but inside she felt something she had almost forgotten. Pride. And the weapons? Dr. Catherine Blake finished the 0-point tests last week. The results were beyond anything we hoped for. Nathan pulled up a video on his tablet. It showed a small device, no larger than a basketball, being tested in an empty region of space. The device activated. A beam of pure white light shot out and struck an asteroid. The asteroid did not explode. It simply ceased to exist. Laura watched the video twice. The Council shields? Won't matter. 0-point energy bypasses conventional defenses completely. One hit from our weapons, and their ships will be gone. For 15 years, human scientists had studied alien technology. They had learned how it worked. And then they had asked a question that changed everything. What if there was a better way? The Council had been using the same technology for thousands of years. They had stopped innovating because they thought they had all the answers. Humanity had no such belief. Humans always looked for something new. On the other side of the galaxy, the frontier colonies were fighting their own battles. Marcus Cole stood on the bridge of his ship, a converted mining vessel called the Dusty Star. It was old and ugly, and held together with patches and prayers. But it was his, and he loved it. Below him, the colony world of Haven's Rest turned slowly in the void. 20,000 people lived there. Farmers and miners and families who had come to the frontier looking for a new life. Now they were under attack. Raxian raiders had arrived 3 hours ago. The Raxians were a cruel species, pirates who preyed on the weak. They had heard that human colonies were no longer protected by the Council. They had come expecting easy prey. They were wrong. 4 more ships coming around the planet's dark side, called out his sensor officer. A young woman named Sophie Lane. That makes 11 total. Marcus studied the display. 11 Raxian warships against his 5 converted civilian vessels. The odds were not good. What do we have? He asked. Mining lasers. Cargo drones. About 60 missiles we built from spare parts. Sophie shook her head. It's not enough. It's what we have. Marcus opened a channel to the other ships. All vessels, this is Cole. We're not going to win this fight with firepower. We're going to win it with brains. Here's what we're going to do. The battle lasted 6 hours. The Raxians were stronger, but they were also overconfident. They expected the humans to run or surrender. Instead, the humans fought with desperate creativity. Cargo drones loaded with explosives flew into Raxian engines. Mining lasers cut through hull plates at unexpected angles. The colonists on the ground launched surface-to-space missiles from hidden bunkers. Every time the Raxians thought they had won, something else exploded. By the end, 11 Raxian ships were burning wreckage. Only one escape pod made it away, carrying a handful of survivors back to Raxian space. Marcus stood on the bridge of his damaged ship and watched the pod disappear into the darkness. He was exhausted. 3 of his friends were dead. The colony had taken serious damage, but they had won. Word of the battle spread quickly. The Raxians told everyone who would listen. The humans had fought like demons. The humans had refused to die. The humans were not the easy prey everyone expected. Other species heard the story and wondered. If a few colonists with mining equipment could defeat 11 warships, what could the humans do with a real military? Back on Earth, the government worked in secret. Trade with the Council was gone, so they built new trade networks with species outside Council control. Resources were tight, so they learned to recycle everything. Scientists shared their discoveries freely because there was no time for competition. Dr. Catherine Blake spent her days in a laboratory on the dark side of the moon. She was testing weapons that could break planets. But she dreamed of something else. She dreamed of a day when those weapons would never need to be used. A day when humanity would be respected, not feared. "We're building the tools of war," she told her team one night, "but we're doing it so our children won't have to fight. Remember that. We're not building an empire. We're building a shield." 5 years of silence. 5 years of hard work and sacrifice. 5 years of becoming something new. The Council still laughed at humanity. They still told jokes about the foolish species that had walked away from protection. They still believed the humans would fail. They had no idea what was coming. In the shipyards of Luna, the last of the new fleet was taking shape. 247 warships, each one capable of appearing anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Each one carrying weapons that could tear through any defense. Lavra Mitchell stood on the observation deck and watched the ships glitter in the darkness. "We're ready," she said quietly. "Now we just need a reason." She did not have to wait long. Thornwood Station floated in the cold darkness at the edge of known space. It was a small place, just a collection of connected modules where scientists studied the strange signals coming from deep space. 300 people lived there. Researchers and their families. Children who had grown up knowing nothing but the stars. Dr. Hannah Cole was in her laboratory when the alarms started screaming. She looked up from her work and saw something impossible through the window. Ships. Dozens of them. Valkyrie warships with their distinctive curved hulls and glowing engines. "All personnel, this is Station Commander Victor Nash." The voice came through every speaker on the station. "We have unknown vessels approaching. Everyone move to the central hub immediately. This is not a drill." Hannah grabbed her daughter's hand. Emma was only 8 years old, with curious eyes and her mother's dark hair. They ran through the corridors with everyone else, joining the river of frightened people flowing toward the center of the station. The central hub was a large open space where the whole community gathered for meetings and celebrations. Now it was filled with terrified faces. Victor Nash stood on a platform at the front. He was a strong man who had spent 30 years in space, but even he looked worried. "The Valkyrie have surrounded us," he said. "They're demanding we surrender the station. They claim we're conducting illegal research. That's a lie." Someone shouted. "We're just studying cosmic signals." "I know." Victor raised his hands for quiet. "I've tried to explain, but they're not listening. They're using us to send a message to Earth." The message arrived on Earth 6 hours later. Admiral Sarek Vel appeared on screens around the world. His blue skin was dark with anger. His 3 eyes stared out at humanity with undisguised hatred. "Your people have insulted the Galactic Council," he said. "You have rejected our protection and our guidance. Now you will learn the cost of your arrogance. We have taken Thornwood Station. 300 of your people are now prisoners of the Valkyrie Empire. They will remain our prisoners until Earth agrees to return to the Council under revised terms. Terms that will ensure you never threaten the peace again." The screen went dark. For a moment, Earth was silent. Then the anger began. President Megan Torres stood in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, the most powerful people on Earth waited for her decision. Military commanders, scientists, diplomats. The future of humanity rested on what she said next. "What are our options?" she asked quietly. Commander Laura Mitchell stepped forward. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with controlled fury. We have three choices. We can negotiate, which means giving the Volcari everything they want. We can do nothing, which means abandoning our people. Or we can fight. The Volcari have 50 warships around that station, said General Patrick Stone. We've never tested our new fleet in actual combat. We don't know if the fold space drives will work under pressure. We don't know if our weapons will perform as expected. Then it's time to find out, Torres said. She turned to Lavra. How soon can you be ready? Lavra smiled. It was a dangerous smile, the smile of a predator about to hunt. We've been ready for years, Madam President. Just give the word. Torres looked around the room. She saw fear on some faces, hope on others, determination on all of them. Bring our people home, she said, and make sure the galaxy never forgets what happens when you threaten humanity. 72 hours later, the Volcari fleet waited patiently around Thornwood Station. Admiral Sarkvel sat in his command chair, feeling very pleased with himself. The humans would surrender. They had no choice. They were weak and alone, and the might of the Volcari Empire would crush any resistance. His tactical officer looked up from her console, confusion on her face. Admiral, I'm detecting strange energy readings. They're appearing everywhere. What do you mean, everywhere? Before she could answer, the universe tore itself apart. 36 points of light blazed into existence inside the Volcari formation. For a fraction of a second, they were just lights. Then they became ships. Human ships, angular and sharp and bristling with weapons. They had appeared without warning, without approach, without any sign that they were coming. One moment empty space, the next moment a fleet of war. Admiral Sorokvel stared at his display in disbelief. That's impossible. They can't just appear. Nothing can just appear. Commander Lavra Mitchell's voice came through every Volcari communication system at once. Admiral Sorokvel. This is Commander Lavra Mitchell of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have imprisoned human citizens. You will release them immediately, or you will be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to respond. The Admiral's shock turned to fury. You dare threaten me? I have 50 warships. You have 36. Destroy them. The Volcari fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts and missile swarms filled the space around them, turning the void into a storm of destruction. But the human ships were not there. They had folded again, reappearing in different positions. The Volcari weapons hit nothing but empty space. And then the humans fired back. 0-point beams lanced out from every human vessel. They were thin lines of perfect white light, beautiful and terrible. Where they touched Volcari ships, the ships simply vanished. No explosions, no debris. The matter that made up those vessels was converted directly into energy and scattered across dimensions that had no names. 11 minutes. That was all it took. 50 Volcari warships became clouds of fading light. Admiral Sarkvel's flagship, the Pride of Velkar, was hit by 7 beams at once. One moment it was there. The next moment it was gone, along with everyone aboard. The battle was over before most of the galaxy even knew it had started. Lavra Mitchell's ship, the Constellation, moved slowly toward Thornwood Station. The rescued prisoners were brought aboard with care. Many were crying. Some were laughing. Children ran through the corridors of the warship, amazed by everything they saw. Hannah Cole held her daughter Emma close and watched Earth's fleet through a viewing window. The angular ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons now silent. They were the most beautiful things she had ever seen. "Mom?" Emma asked. "Are we safe now?" Hannah nodded, tears running down her face. "Yes, baby. We're safe. We're going home." Lavra Mitchell recorded a message and broadcast it on every frequency. in every language. This is Commander Laura Mitchell of the Earth Defense Fleet. The prisoners of Thornwood Station have been freed. The Valkyrie force has been eliminated. Let this serve as a warning to anyone who would threaten humanity or our allies. We did not seek this fight. We do not want war. But if you come for our people, we will find you. And we will end you. The message spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. On 100 different worlds, leaders watched the footage of the battle in stunned silence. The humans had hidden in the shadows for 5 years. Now they had stepped into the light, and they were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so loud. Representatives from 100 worlds shouted at each other across the curved table. The Valkyrie delegation screamed for vengeance. Their fleet had been destroyed in 11 minutes. Their admiral was dead. Their pride was shattered. We demand a unified response. The Valkyrie ambassador roared. His blue skin had turned almost purple with rage. Every council fleet must combine against Earth. They must be punished. The High Arbiter sat in his great chair and watched the chaos with ancient eyes. His gray skin rippled slowly, a sign that he was thinking very deeply. The humans destroyed 50 warships without losing a single vessel, he said quietly. His voice somehow cut through the noise, and the chamber fell silent. They have technology we have never seen. If we attack them and fail, the Council will appear weak. Other species might decide to leave, just as the humans did. So we do nothing? The Valkyrie ambassador slammed his fist on the table. We allow these primitives to humiliate us? I am not saying we do nothing. I am saying we must be careful. But while the Council argued, something else was happening. Something that would prove far more dangerous than any military threat. On the water world of Thesser Prime, a secret meeting was taking place. Ambassador Daniel Harper stood in a special suit that protected him from the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. Around him, the Thessari Council floated in graceful circles. They were beautiful creatures with flowing fins and scales that shimmered in every color of the rainbow. The lead, Thessari, a wise elder named Coral Song, spoke through a translator device. We have watched humanity for many years, Ambassador. When you joined the Council, you were eager and hopeful. We saw your spirit slowly crushed under the weight of unfair rules and broken promises. Daniel nodded. The Council never treated us as equals. They promised partnership, but gave us servitude. We understand this feeling well. Coral Song swam closer. The Thessari have been Council members for 3 centuries. In that time, we have never been allowed to vote on matters affecting our own waters. Our trade routes are controlled by others. Our resources are taken, and we receive nothing in return. Then why do you stay? The elder was quiet for a long moment. Fear. We were afraid of what would happen if we left. We saw no alternative. But now we see you. We see a species that chose freedom and survived. More than survived. You became something stronger. Daniel felt hope rising in his chest. This was what he had dreamed of during all those long years of fighting alone. We didn't leave the Council to build our own empire, he said carefully. We left because we wanted to control our own future. If the Thessari want the same thing, we would be honored to stand beside you. Not as rulers, but as friends. Coral Song turned to the other Thessari Council members. They communicated in their own way, with flashes of light and subtle movements of their fins. Daniel waited, barely breathing. Finally, the elder turned back to him. We will leave the Council. We will stand with Earth, and we will ask others to join us. News of the Thessari withdrawal hit the Council like a bomb. The High Arbiter called an emergency session. But by the time it convened, 2 more species had already announced their departure. The Makari, a race of brilliant engineers who had designed most of the Council's infrastructure, declared their independence on the same day. The Arwan, peaceful traders who controlled important shipping lanes, followed soon after. "This is Earth's doing." The Valkyrie ambassador was practically screaming now. "They're destroying everything we've built. We must stop them." The chorus delegates clicked their mandibles together in their distinctive pattern. When they spoke, all of them spoke at once, their many voices joining into one. The chorus does not believe military action is wise. Earth has demonstrated superior technology. A war against them would be costly and uncertain. The chorus is reconsidering its position within the council. The High Arbiter's gray skin went pale. The chorus had been council members since the very beginning. They were one of the founding species. If they left, others would surely follow. "Please," he said, and for the first time in centuries, there was desperation in his voice. "The council has maintained peace in this galaxy for 12,000 years. We have prevented wars. We have protected the weak. Without us, there will be chaos." The Makari ambassador, a small being with clever hands and sharp eyes, laughed bitterly. "Protected the weak? You have exploited the weak. You have taken our technology and given us nothing. You have used our labor to build your empires while we struggled to survive. Do not speak to us of protection." One by one, the chamber began to empty. On Earth, President Megan Torres met with her advisors in the Situation Room. The wall showed maps of the galaxy, with colors indicating which species had joined Earth's growing coalition. 15 species have left the Council in the past month, said Admiral Laura Mitchell. 20 more are in secret talks with our diplomats. The Council is falling apart. What about the military threat? Torres asked. The Valkyrie are still calling for war, but no one is listening. The Golvathi have officially declared neutrality. Without them, the Council doesn't have enough ships to challenge us. Dr. Catherine Blake stepped forward. She looked tired but satisfied. The technology we developed is spreading too. We've shared the fold space drive designs with our new allies. The Makari are already building their own versions. In a few years, half the galaxy will have ships that can appear anywhere without warning. The Council's old power was based on controlling travel routes and communication. That power is gone. Torres nodded slowly. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, but now that it was here, she felt something unexpected. Not triumph, but responsibility. "We didn't do this to become the new rulers of the galaxy," she said. "We did it because we wanted freedom. We need to make sure that's what we're building." Daniel Harper appeared on the screen, calling in from a Dasari vessel somewhere in deep space. "The Coalition is asking for a formal meeting," he said. "All the species who have left the Council want to discuss what comes next. They're looking to us for leadership." Torres thought about that for a moment. Humanity had been the smallest voice in the old Council. Now they were being asked to help build something new. "Tell them we'll host the meeting on Earth, in the place where humans and aliens first made contact. It seems fitting." The first Luna conference took place 6 weeks later. Representatives from 43 species gathered in the shadow of Earth's moon to discuss the future. There were no hierarchies, no special seats. Everyone had an equal voice. It was everything the old Council had failed to be. And in the chambers of the Galactic Council, now half empty, the High Arbiters sat alone and wondered where everything had gone wrong. The galaxy was changing. The old order was dying. And humanity stood at the center of something new and strange and full of possibility. But the High Arbiter was not ready to give up just yet. He had one final move to make. The first contact memorial stood on the surface of Luna, protected by a crystal dome that showed the stars in perfect clarity. Inside, the original translation device still worked after nearly 70 years. It was a simple machine that had once seemed like magic, the tool that let humans and aliens speak to each other for the very first time. president. Megan Torres stood in the memorial garden and waited for her guest. Flowers from a dozen different worlds grew in carefully maintained beds around her. Earth roses bloomed next to the sorry water lily and strange glowing plants from Makari Prime. It was a reminder that life, in all its forms, could find ways to exist together. A shuttle landed outside the dome. The airlock cycled, and the High Arbiter of the Galactic Council walked into the memorial alone. He looked old. Torres had met him once before, during a ceremony when she was just a junior diplomat. Back then, he had seemed eternal, unchanging, a living monument to 12,000 years of galactic order. Now she could see the weariness in his movements, the weight of watching his life's work crumble around him. Torres was not alone. Commander Lavra Mitchell stood at her right side, her uniform perfectly pressed, her eyes watching everything. Ambassador Daniel Harper stood at her left, the man who had started everything by walking out of that chamber 6 years ago. And Dr. Catherine Blake waited nearby, the scientist whose inventions had made humanity impossible to ignore. The High Arbiters stopped a few meters away and studied each of them in turn. "You have won," he said simply. "The Council is dying. Half our members have fled. The Valkyrie speak of war, but no one listens to them anymore. Even the Korvathi have begun asking questions about whether the old ways should continue." He paused. "I came here to understand how. How did a species so young, so primitive by our standards, bring down something that lasted 12,000 years?" Torres considered her answer carefully. "You made a mistake," she said finally. "You underestimated us. Not our technology or our military strength, but something more basic. You thought we were like the other young species you had encountered. You thought we would accept whatever scraps you offered. You never realized that humans would rather struggle alone than live on our knees." The High Arbiter's gray skin rippled. "We offered you protection, guidance, access to knowledge that took other species millennia to develop. And in return, you took our freedom." Daniel Harper spoke for the first time. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of 20 years of frustration. "You decided what we could build and where we could travel, and how we could live. You treated us like children who needed to be controlled. Perhaps." The High Arbiter looked away, his eyes fixed on the distant Earth hanging in the black sky. "But the galaxy is dangerous. We've seen young species destroy themselves again and again. We built the Council to prevent that, to guide new civilizations through the difficult times until they were ready to stand alone." "And who decided when they were ready?" Lavra Mitchell asked. Her voice was sharp. "You did. The Council did. The powerful species who had controlled everything for thousands of years decided who got to be free and when. That's not guidance. That's tyranny wearing nice clothes." The High Arbiter turned to face her. For a long moment, neither of them looked away. "You think we are evil," he said slowly. "You think we built the Council to dominate others. I think you convinced yourself that control was the same as protection," Torres said gently. "I think you started with good intentions. But somewhere along the way, you forgot that the species you were protecting were people. Not children. Not projects. People with their own dreams and hopes and rights." Silence filled the memorial. Outside, the stars burned cold and bright, unchanged by the small dramas of living things. Finally, the High Arbiter spoke again. "What do you want?" Torres glanced at her companions, then back at the ancient being before her. "We want what every species wants. The chance to make our own choices. The freedom to grow and change and become whatever we're capable of being. We want to be respected, not controlled." She paused. "And we want the same thing for everyone else. You would destroy the Council entirely?" "No, the Council could still exist. But it would have to change. Real representation for all species, no matter how young or small. No more exploitation of resources. No more military dominance by a handful of powerful races. Torres stepped forward. The coalition we're building isn't an empire. It's a partnership. Everyone has an equal voice. Everyone shares in the costs and the benefits. That's what the council should have been from the beginning. The High Arbiter stood very still. His skin continued to shift and flow, reflecting the turmoil of his thoughts. If I take this offer to the council, the Valkyrie will refuse. Others may follow them. There could be war. There could be, Lavra admitted. But we've shown what we can do. Does anyone really want to fight us? For the first time, something like a smile crossed the High Arbiter's ancient face. It was a sad smile, full of regret for roads not taken. No, I do not believe they do. He turned to look at the original translation device, the machine that had made all of this possible. When your species first came to us, I remember thinking that you were promising, creative and adaptable and full of fire. I also thought you would be easy to manage. It seems I was right about the first part and very wrong about the second. He faced Torres again. I will speak to the council. I cannot promise they will accept your terms, but I can promise that I will try to make them understand. The old ways are over. If we do not change, we will become irrelevant. That, I think, would be worse than losing some of our power. Torres extended her hand. It was a human gesture, meaningless in most galactic cultures. But the High Arbiter had studied humanity. He knew what it meant. He took her hand and shook it gently. The galaxy is watching, you know, he said. Every species, every world. They want to see what comes next. They want to know if your coalition can actually work, or if it will fall apart like so many hopeful projects before it. Torres nodded. Then we'll have to show them something worth believing in. The High Arbiter released her hand and walked back toward his shuttle. At the airlock, he paused one final time. For what it is worth, President Torres, I hope you succeed. The galaxy could use some new ideas. Perhaps humanity will provide them. Then he was gone. Torres stood in the memorial garden with her friends and looked up at the stars. So many worlds. So many possibilities. So much work still to do. Well, Daniel said quietly, I guess that's it. We actually did it. Lavra shook her head. We haven't done anything yet. We've just proven we can't be ignored. The real work starts now. Catherine Blake smiled and put her hand on Laura's shoulder. That's true. But for tonight, maybe we can just appreciate how far we've come. 6 years ago, we were alone and afraid, and everyone expected us to fail. Now look at us. Torres thought about all the people who had made this moment possible. The engineers who built the fleet. The scientists who developed the technology. The colonists who defended their homes against impossible odds. The diplomats who found allies in unexpected places. She thought about the children of the coalition, growing up in a galaxy where no one would tell them what they could not become. She thought about future generations who would never know the fear and frustration that her generation had faced. There will be problems, she said. The coalition isn't perfect. There will be disagreements and challenges and moments when it seems like everything might fall apart. That's just how life works. Then we'll deal with them, Daniel said. Together. Torres looked at the Earth, hanging in the sky like a blue and green jewel. The home of humanity. The starting point of everything. The galaxy held its breath, she said softly. Everyone was waiting to see what would happen to the humans who dared to walk away. Well, now they know. We didn't just survive. We changed everything. She turned to face her friends. Let's go build a future worth having. They walked out of the memorial together, leaving behind the machine that had started it all. Above them, the stars continued their ancient dance. And somewhere out there, young beings on 100 different worlds looked up at the sky and dreamed of possibilities. because of humanity, those dreams might actually come true.